is Valley News Live at 4.
New at 4, 47 people in Minnesota have been charged with conspiracy, wire fraud, money laundering, and bribery in what authorities say was a massive scheme that took advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic. They say that they stole $250 million from a federal program that provides meals to low-income children. Prosecutors say the defendants created companies that claim to be offering food to tens of thousands of children across Minnesota and sought reimbursement from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's food nutrition programs. Officials actually say that they are accused of creating dozens of shell companies to enroll in the program as federal child nutrition program sites and creating shell companies to receive and launder the proceeds of their fraudulent scheme.
Before long, the scheme that began with a simple idea in March of 2020 grew to become the largest pandemic fraud in the United States.
Officials say that few meals were actually served and the defendants used the money to buy luxury cars, property, as well as jewelry. And new at 4, one person has died in a fatal crash just south of Jamestown. The North Dakota Highway Patrol says that 52-year-old Christopher Anderson of Jamestown was making a left-hand turn on Highway 281. That's when a 37-year-old man who was driving behind him in a truck began to swerve, trying to avoid Anderson, but ended up rear-ending him. The truck ended up in a ditch, and the driver had to be removed from the truck and was sent to the hospital in Jamestown. The driver of the truck was pronounced dead there, and officials plan to release his name tomorrow. Well, taking a look at our sky cam right now, it is a cloudy one over there in Devil's Lake. And right now we want to send things over to Summer Schnellbach with a look of what exactly we'll be seeing tonight. Summer, what do you have for us?
Thank you so much, Bobby, and good afternoon, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Yeah, things are looking a little dark again in the Devil's Lake Basin. There have been some showers in and around the Northern Valley and the Devil's Lake Basin. Right now, just a few lingering light rain showers and sprinkles as they continue their exit. You can see down in the Southern Valley a little bit more sunshine. And look at this temperature spread. From the northwest to the southeast, it's 90 down in Marshall, Minnesota, 84 in Sisseton, 86 in Wadena, 75 here in Fargo, a nice comfortable middle ground. We're at 71 in Grand Forks, 64 in Langdon. Even where you see those greens closer up to the top left-hand screen there, those greens are 50s, so a very big range. We've got much cooler temperatures up in Canada, 40s and 50s. We will start to see some of that cooler air move in, not expecting highs in the 40s, but a cooler pattern will start to be settling in as early as tomorrow. But for tonight, I can expect mostly clear skies here in Fargo. Temperatures falling into the 50s for the early part of the overnight hours. And our breeze is going to stick around for a little bit. So Bobby, coming up in just a little bit, I'll walk you through your hour-by-hour forecast. Potentials there again for some sprinkles tomorrow, and I'll let you know what day this week looks to be a little, potentially a soaker for some.
Yeah, and just looking at those temperatures that are dropping, I guess we can say it is now kind of maybe officially that sweatshirt weather that we kind of sweater weather that we finally have to start putting on. Summer, thank you so much. We'll talk to you in a few minutes. Well, a Moorhead woman is in jail after police say that she stabbed someone during a fight earlier in the day. This happened in the 5400 block of 28th Avenue South around 8:30 this morning. Police say that 20-year-old Jasmine Mawalo was fighting with someone when she stabbed them. She was booked into the Cass County Jail for aggravated domestic assault and interfering with the 911 call. The victim has non-life-threatening injuries. And court documents say a man called 911 and admitted that he hit 18-year-old Kaylor Ellingson of Grace City, North Dakota with a vehicle because he thought he was being threatened. 41-year-old Shannon Brandt allegedly told dispatchers that the two had been in a political argument. Brandt is charged with criminal vehicular homicide and leaving the scene of a crash involving injury or death. A judge set Brandt's bail at $50,000. And a federal grand jury has indicted a Minnesota man accused of threatening to kill a U.S. Senator. 35-year-old Brendan Daughtry of Coon Rapids is now in jail in Elk River. Now, court records do not identify the senator other than to say they do not represent Minnesota. The indictment alleges Daughtry left 2 threatening voicemails messages at the senator's field office in June. The FBI says Daughtry told them he made the calls because the senator's remarks on gun control and that he wants politicians to feel pressured. Court records show Daughtry was convicted in 2018 of threatening to burn down a Pearl Vision store in Maple Grove and harm the employees because he was mad that he owed $80 for replacement glasses. Well, rainbow fentanyl is now in Minnesota. The DEA sent warnings out last month about the targeting of children with bright-colored fentanyl. Officials say the pills have been found in Mankato. Police also seized powder and blocks that look like sidewalk chalk, all making fentanyl look harmless. But just 2 milligrams of it, which is equal to about grains of just salt, is considered a lethal dose. This week marks 8 years since an NDSU student went missing and was found dead in Moorhead. Tom Beerson was a freshman at the university back in 2014 when he went missing after a party and was found days later in a Moorhead RV park. No suspects have been arrested and police have not released any new information, but in previous conversations, Beerson's parents in Starnell, Minnesota, say they're hopeful one day they will have the answers. One North Dakota pastor has gathered critical medical supplies from churches and volunteers in Minnesota to give to those who will need it over in Ukraine. Pastor Phil Blom from Bethel Lutheran Church in Wahpeton started the journey to Poland last night, and they also packed cold weather clothing for soldiers as well as kids.
And we want to get it there before they need it, and that's very soon that they will be needing it.
And he hopes that his background as an Air Force chaplain and his work with the Red Cross will help the people of Ukraine. 37 different and unique homes on display for the Valley's home buyers this year for the annual 22nd annual Fall Parade of Homes. And this year, the Home Builders Association of Fargo-Moorhead is displaying those 37 homes in 4 different communities from 17 different builders. And now those homes range in price from $248,000 to over $906,000. But one realtor says that this event is referred to as the Super Bowl of builders, giving home buyers and home builders a connection. And for more information, you can visit our website. Well, if you're in a crisis, connecting to someone is now as easy as dialing 988. That's the shorter National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number that launched back in July. And in just the last 2 months, data shows that calls for help in Minnesota rose by 44%. The state thinks that's because the 3 digits are easier to remember, and those answering the calls say so far it's been a successful transition. Caroline Cummings has the story.
We've seen a definite increase in calls.
Julia Ogunle is director of 988 at Greater Twin Cities United Way, one of Minnesota's 4 call centers where trained counselors are there to answer if you need help.
The good news is I think word is getting out and people are hearing about the number and feeling comfortable reaching out to us at that number. And it is also a sign that the needs are great in our community, and there's definitely demand for these services.
Someone is on the other line at any time of day, no matter where they are. But the goal is that Minnesotans' calls are answered by Minnesotans.
If you answer them in Minnesota, we know what the resources are and we can connect people much more efficiently and effectively.
Data tracked by the National Lifeline show our state is on the right track. Minnesota had an in-state answer rate of 89% in August.
It is better than we expected, absolutely. So, you get worried if you're going to have an extra 1,000 calls. Is our rate going to go down, or are we going to be able to meet the need? And I really applaud the call centers because they were able to really ramp up.
There was a more than $8 million proposal on the table at the Capitol this year for 988 expansion, but lawmakers left without funding it. Mental health advocates, though, hope that come January, that money will get a second look.
I think the availability of continued resources to meet a potentially growing demand from there is always going to be a factor in our overall success to be able to meet the demands from our community.
Caroline Cummings, WCCO 4 News.
Now, the average time it took for someone to answer the phone in August was 42 seconds. The hope is to cut down on that wait time. But if you are waiting for several seconds, stay on the phone because somebody will pick up. Well, tomorrow the central bank will announce its latest decision on interest rates. The Fed is expected to raise its benchmark rate, which influences interest rates throughout the economy by another 0.75 percentage point in its fight against inflation. Now, that would be the third consecutive increase of that size, and this comes as 30-year home mortgages rates hover around 6%, the highest in some 14 years.